Once upon a time, there was a poor waiter serving the king a double deluxe bacon cheeseburger and a nice cold Coca-Cola.
The waiter set the Coke in front of the king and held up a straw.
Would you care for a straw, Mr. Heinister?
Of course I want a straw. Do you expect me to tip my royal beverage every time I need to slake my thirst? I might pull a majestic muscle. Only peasants tip their beverages.
Upon hearing the king say tip, the waiter had an idea.
You see, the lazy king had a reputation for being a very stingy tipper. The waiter hoped that if he got the king's attention, it would lead to a large tip after he finished his burger.
The waiter slid the straw into the king's Coke and smiled.
I hate to brag, Mr. Heinister, but my daughter Rose is my brain. You can turn plastic straws into gold.
Gold?
Oh yes, your most excellent lordshipness. It's quite a talent. I hand Rose a plastic straw at night. Poof! By morning, she changed it into gold.
The king's dark beady eyes twinkled with greed.
I must witness this myself.
The king shoved the whole double deluxe bacon cheeseburger into his mouth, then guzzled his ice-cold Coke in one swallow.
He was so excited he forgot to use his straw. He also forgot to leave the poor waiter a tip.
The next morning, the king summoned Rose to the castle.
My dear Rose, I've heard so much about you.
You have?
Of course, my dear. Your wonderful father, waiter, what's his face, told me all about your special abilities.
So you know I've memorized the entire Dewey Decimal System?
Ha! I see you're a jokester. But let's leave the humor to the court jester. You have more important work to do.
Curious but confused, Rose followed the king through the castle until he shoved her into a room filled with boxes of plastic straws.
Here you go, dear Rose. 100,000 straws. If you turn them all into gold like your father said you could, you can have a chilled can of Coke in the morning. If not, well, I'll have to give you a severe punishment.
But my king, I'm only a librarian.
Have a nice night.
Boom,
Lit, lit. The king slammed the room's thick wooden door and snapped a heavy lock into place.
Rose slumped onto the room's cold stone floor and wept.
What was Daddy thinking? I'm a librarian. I can't turn straws into gold.
Poof! A little man in a tunic appeared in the middle of the room.
Everything about the little man was pointy. His nose, his ears, his beard, even his knees and eyebrows.
Ho, my lady. Why are you crying? Apparently, my father told the king I could turn straws into gold. Now the king has given me until morning to do it. If I don't, he's going to punish me. Straws into gold, easy peasy. Are you kidding? If I could do that, do you think I'd have spent 8 years memorizing the entire Dewey Decimal System? Well, I can turn the straws into gold, but you have to pay me. How about this?
Rose unclasped a thin silver locket that had been her mother's.
Deal!
The little man shoved the locket deep into a pocket of his tunic.
Then he started waving 2 straws around like magic wands. He pumped his pointy knees up and down like a blacksmith's billows.
And he twisted and twirled in slow, looping circles, his eyes crossed, his head lolling like a dead fish.
Take a sip, grip, make a move, that's bold. Stars go up the nose, son, they are gold.
Without warning, the little man plunged a straw into each nostril.
Both plastic straws transformed into solid gold. Rose watched in stunned silence as the little man kept dancing and chanting and shoving straws up his nostrils all night long.
Until it was nearly morning, and
The last two straws were finally turned to gold.
I can't believe you did it.
I told you I would. Thanks for the locket.
Without another word, the little man smiled, bowed, and disappeared, just as the king swung the door open.
Whoa! Gold straws!
Yes, my king. May I go home now?
My dear Rose, home is so overrated. Here's a chilled can of Coke. Now, come with me. I have another surprise.
The king led Rose to a room that was twice as large.
200,000 straws. This time, I'll give you a chilled Coke in a glass bottle. Everyone knows Coke tastes best from a glass bottle. Of course, if you don't change the straws into gold, severe punishment. See you in the morning.
Boom, click, click.
The door slammed shut, the lock clicked into place, and Rose stood alone in a large room with 200,000 straws.
It only took a single tear rolling down her cheek before... Poof, poof.
Hello again, my lady. Why are you crying?
It's the king. This time I need 200,000 plastic straws turned into gold.
Easy peasy chicken squeezy. What will you pay me?
Rose pulled off a silver ring that had been her grandmother's.
How about this?
Deal!
The little man jammed the ring deep into the pocket of his tunic, grabbed 2 straws from a box, and started his chant.
By the next morning, the little man had pooped away, and...
Woohoo! More gold!
The king handed Rose a glass bottle of Coke.
Now, dear Rose, wait until you see what I have for you next. 1,000,000 straws!
But my king!
This time, if you turn them all into gold, I'll make you my queen. Happy gold making!
Boom,
Boom,
click,
click.
click.
You probably know what happened next. Rose cried. The little man reappeared. Then he asked what Rose would pay. But
I gave you my mother's locket. I gave you my grandmother's ring. I don't have anything left.
Fortunately, I offer a different payment plan. I'll turn the straws into gold. Then, after you marry the king and have a baby, someday you'll give the baby to me.
But...
Deal!
And once again, you probably know what happened next. The little man turned all 1,000,000 straws into gold, the king married Rose, and within a year a baby prince was born. Then...
I'm back!
No, please don't take my baby. I'll give you all the gold in the kingdom. Just don't take my little boy.
I can make gold, remember? But I like to be fair. Tomorrow morning, I'll give you 3 guesses to figure out my name. If you get it right, you can keep your baby.
And then the little man disappeared.
Feeling like she was stuck in a horrible fairy tale, Rose did the only thing she could think of. She grabbed a book of fairy tales and searched for strange names.
After reading fairy tales all night long, Rose finally had 3 names on her list. She was confident one of them must be right. So in the morning...
Hello, my queen. Do you know my name?
Hansel?
Nope.
The Frog Prince?
Wrong again.
Rose smiled, confident in her final guess. After all, she'd gotten the name from a fairy tale nearly identical to her own life. She pointed at the little man.
Rumpelstiltskin.
The little man gasped.
How did you know my uncle's name?
Your uncle?
Of course, but we look nothing alike. His ears are much pointier.
But I thought...
My name is Bob. Sorry, too bad you used all 3 guesses. I'll take my baby now.
That morning, the little man scooped the baby prince from the royal cradle and
Poof, poof.
The little man and the prince were never seen again.
Fortunately, Bob was actually a very nice man, and he made an excellent father. He and the baby lived happily ever after.
And even though Rose was sad, if the baby had grown up in the castle, he'd probably have turned out cruel and greedy, just like his real father, the king.
So I guess it's a good thing the little man's name was
Not
Rumpelstiltskin.
Once upon a time ago, at least a month ago, there were 3 aardvarks who lived in a tiny cottage in the woods.
Now I know what you're thinking.
That's ridiculous. Everyone knows that aardvarks live in sub-Saharan Africa. What would they be doing in the woods?
Plus, you're probably thinking,
Aardvarks are solitary animals. There's no way 3 of them would choose to live together.
and you're probably thinking,
Hey narrator, how can you be so ignorant? Even if 3 aardvarks did decide to live communally in a wooded habitat, they live in an underground burrow, not a tiny cottage.
Well, this is a fairy tale.
not everything is going to make sense. So get over it.
Anyway, as I was saying, these 3 aardvarks live in a tiny cottage in the woods.
There was Papa Aardvark, who really liked his bold morning porridge. There was Mama Aardvark, who really liked the new beanbag chairs in their living room. And there was Artie Aardvark, who was a moody aardvark teenager who didn't really like anything except loud music and corn dogs.
One morning, right as Papa Aardvark was getting ready to serve his porridge, he noticed a problem.
We're out of termites. You know I can't eat my morning porridge without fresh termites.
It's not my fault. The termite trap was full yesterday. If you only used a single scoop instead of pouring them on, they'd last a lot longer.
I like termites. I can't help it.
Well, aardvarks are also supposed to be nocturnal, but you're still awake to complain this morning. Maybe you should go to bed until nighttime and stop worrying about termites.
But I don't want to be nocturnal.
Well, I don't want to fetch more termites.
Would you just stop yelling? I can't even hear my music.
We're not
yelling.
Really, the entire argument was kind of silly. It was the sort of thing that could only take place in a fairy tale filled with anthropomorphic animals. Regardless, the 3 aardvarks, still arguing, finally trampled from the cottage instead of more termites for Papa's porch. That's when a girl named Goldilocks came wandering through the woods and stumbled upon the aardvark's empty cottage.
Hey, I wonder what's in here.
Goldilocks didn't even bother to knock. She twisted the doorknob and pushed.
The cottage's front door squawked open on rusty hinges. The first thing Goldilocks was 3 steaming balls of porridge sitting on the kitchen table.
Breakfast! I'm starving.
Goldilocks skipped over to the table, shoved a spoonful of Papa Aardvark's porridge, and shoved it into her mouth.
Ow, ow, ow! Hot, hot, hot!
She dropped Papa's spoon onto the floor and scooped up a spoonful of Mama Aardvark's porridge instead.
Hot, hot, hot!
Then she tried Artie's porridge.
Ow! My tongue's burning off!
Clang! Obviously, Goldilocks was very smart. The 3 bowls had all been scooped from the same, still steaming pot of porridge sitting on the stove. Naturally, the first bowl of porridge was too hot to eat. The second and third bowls would also be too hot. Goldilocks plunged through the freezer and cooled off her tongue by eating an entire box of frozen corn dogs.
Then she skimmed the rest of the cottage, wondering what else there is to do.
Beanbags!
Goldilocks bounded into the living room and launched herself into the air.
Geronimo!
Goldilocks landed on Papa Aardvark's beanbag, which burst open, sending small white styrofoam beads blasting across the floor. She got up from the floor, the styrofoam beans from her hair and launched herself at Mama Arbuck's beanbag instead.
Cannonball! Mama's beanbag erupted into a volcano of white beans. Incoming!
Artie's beanbag met the same unfortunate fate. Of course, since all three beanbags were identical, it wasn't all that surprising that the first beanbag burst when Goldilocks jumped on it. Second and third ones would rip open too. Goldilocks, who didn't care, eating all those corn dogs and jumping on those beanbags had exhausted her. She headed upstairs for a nap.
Unfortunately for Goldilocks, since Arbucks are used to sleeping in burrows, Mama, Papa, and Artie didn't have any beds. They just slept on the floor.
So instead of napping, Goldilocks stuck Artie's headphones over her ears and started jamming out to his classic Rocks mixtape.
Born to be wild!
And that's why Goldilocks didn't hear the Arbucks return.
Hey, somebody took a bite of my porridge. And they dropped my spoon on the floor.
Somebody took a bite of my porridge and they dropped my spoon on the floor too.
Dude, somebody ate all my corn dogs. Then Papa glanced into the living room.
Hey, somebody tore open my beanbag.
Oh no, mine too. Look, it's ruined. Absolutely ruined.
Snort! Here I come!
Artie dove into the thick layer of styrofoam beans and started making a beanbag bean snowing in the middle of the living room.
And that's when Mama, Papa, and Artie heard Goldilocks' loud, off-key singing coming from upstairs.
Somebody's singing upstairs, but I prefer smooth jazz. That definitely isn't smooth jazz.
Well, I prefer country, and that isn't country either.
Well, I roll with classic rock, and somebody's up there jamming to my tunes right now. And they sound horrible. Mama, Papa, and Artie charged upstairs. Goldilocks was so busy dancing and singing and strutting around the room, she didn't notice the three Arbucks gawking at her. Then she pirouetted right into them. Whoop! Thump! Crunch!
Goldilocks, Mama, Papa, and Artie tumbled to the floor like bowling pins and now scrambled back to their feet.
Who are you?
What are you doing with my tunes and my headphones?
Ah! Giant talking kangaroo-tailed rabbit pigs! Help!
Goldilocks rocketed down the stairs, tore open the front door, and bolted from the cottage. Mama, Papa, and Artie were so stunned. They just stood and watched through the upstairs window as Goldilocks fled screaming into the woods. Then they cleaned up all the messes Goldilocks had left behind.
Fortunately, in the end, everyone still lived happily ever after.
Kind of.
I got forced into a termite-free diet.
I had to throw out our ruined beanbags, which still haven't been replaced.
And I never got that Mark's mixtape and headphones after that crazy girl took off with them into the woods.
You think that's bad? My life is way worse. I still have nightmares about kangaroo-tailed rabbit pigs.
So, actually, I guess no one lived happily ever after.
Except
the termites.